More than 5,000 years ago, a powerful civilization began to grow along the banks of the Nile River, surrounded by endless deserts. This river gave life to one of the most fascinating societies in human history. Every year, the Nile flooded its banks and covered the land with rich dark soil. This natural cycle allowed Egyptian farmers to grow huge amounts of crops and support growing communities. Because food was plentiful, villages grew quickly along the river. Families built homes, raised animals, and traded goods in busy communities that slowly expanded each year. As villages grew larger, strong leaders began organizing people to farm the land, build canals, and defend their communities from outside threats. Eventually, these communities formed two powerful regions, known as Upper Egypt and Lower Egypt, each ruled by its own king. For many years, these two kingdoms competed for power, control of the Nile, and influence over the growing population along the river. Around 3100 BC, a powerful ruler named Narmer united the two kingdoms and became the first pharaoh of a united Egypt. The pharaoh was not only a king, but was also believed to be a living god who ruled the land with divine authority. Under the rule of powerful pharaohs, Egypt became highly organized, with workers, farmers, soldiers, and priests all playing important roles. This organized and powerful civilization would soon begin building some of the most incredible monuments the world has ever seen. As Egypt became stronger and more organized, pharaohs began planning enormous construction projects that would show their power and honor the gods for eternity. These monuments were not just tombs for kings. Egyptians believed pyramids helped pharaohs travel to the afterlife and join the gods. Building a pyramid required thousands of skilled workers, including engineers, stonecutters, builders, and laborers. Huge limestone blocks were cut from quarries and transported across the desert, using wooden sleds and strong ropes. Some of the largest stones were even transported by boat along the Nile River before reaching the construction site. At the building site, workers carefully stacked each stone block in perfect alignment to create the pyramid's famous shape. The greatest of these monuments was the Great Pyramid of Giza, built for the powerful pharaoh Khufu. This incredible structure stood taller than any building on Earth for nearly 4,000 years. Near the pyramids, Egyptians also built giant statues, including the mysterious Great Sphinx that still watches over the desert today. These massive monuments showed the world the incredible power, organization, and engineering skill of ancient Egyptian civilization. Religion was at the center of Egyptian life. People believed the world was controlled by powerful gods who ruled the sky, the earth, and the mysterious forces of the afterlife. There were many Egyptian gods, each responsible for different parts of nature, including the sun, the river, the sky, and life after death. One of the most important gods was Ra, the powerful sun god who Egyptians believed traveled across the sky every day. Egyptians believed that when people died, their souls continued into another world known as the afterlife. To prepare for this journey, Egyptians developed a careful process called mummification to preserve the body after death. During mummification, priests removed internal organs and placed them into special containers known as canopic jars. The body was then carefully wrapped in layers of linen cloth to protect it for thousands of years. After the process was complete, the mummy was placed inside a decorated coffin and prepared for burial. Pharaohs were buried with treasures, food, and objects they believed would help them live comfortably in the afterlife. These sacred rituals reflected the deep Egyptian belief that life continued even after death. As Egyptian civilization continued to grow, powerful pharaohs expanded their control, strengthening the kingdom and building a stable government that ruled over millions of people across the fertile Nile Valley. Egypt became wealthy through farming, skilled craftsmanship, and trade with distant regions across Africa and the Mediterranean. Merchant ships traveled along the Nile and across nearby seas, bringing valuable goods such as gold, wood, ivory, and rare spices. At the same time, Egyptian armies protected the kingdom and expanded its influence into neighboring lands. One of the most powerful rulers was Hatshepsut, a rare female pharaoh who led Egypt during a time of peace and prosperity. Hatshepsut focused on trade and construction projects rather than war, building magnificent temples and expanding Egypt's wealth. Centuries later, another famous ruler named Tutankhamun became pharaoh while still a young boy. Although his rule was short, Tutankhamun's tomb would later become one of the most famous archaeological discoveries in history. Another powerful ruler, Ramses II, led Egypt during one of its greatest periods of military strength and monumental construction. Under rulers like Ramses II, Egypt became one of the most powerful and respected civilizations in the entire ancient world. After thousands of years of power and prosperity, the strength of ancient Egypt slowly began to weaken as internal struggles and foreign threats started to challenge the once mighty kingdom. Over time, rival kingdoms and powerful empires from nearby regions began invading Egyptian territory and fighting for control of its rich lands. First came invasions from powerful neighbors such as the Assyrians and later the Persians, who managed to conquer Egypt for a time. Despite these invasions, Egyptian culture, religion, and traditions continued to survive and influence the new rulers of the land. In 332 BC, a famous conqueror named Alexander the Great marched into Egypt and quickly took control of the kingdom. After Alexander's death, one of his generals founded a new dynasty that ruled Egypt for nearly 300 years. The final ruler of this dynasty was the famous Queen Cleopatra, one of the most legendary leaders in Egyptian history. Cleopatra tried to protect Egypt's independence by forming powerful alliances with Roman leaders during a time of political chaos. But after a series of wars and conflicts, the Roman Empire defeated Cleopatra's forces and took control of Egypt. With Rome now ruling the Nile, the long era of the Egyptian pharaohs finally came to an end, closing one of the greatest chapters in human history.